Do I think that basic income is going to create a gaming renaissance? Oh, we're asking the interesting questions now, aren't we? We're asking about my opinion on universal basic income. Well, you know, I'm glad that you come to me, because I am, of course, as everyone knows, an amateur economist on the side of all this. I think universal basic income is one of those things that I have to admit that I absolutely do not know anywhere near enough about to have a valid opinion on. And will giving people an amount of money every month just to cover basic living expenses give them a higher quality of life? Most likely, yes. Will doing this allow those people to follow their passions, find something they're good at, give them a safety net to fall back on, and hopefully create, ultimately, more productive societies, because the society will be producing something that it genuinely feels passionately about instead of being depressedly forced into running a job that they don't like? Again, most likely, yes. Will this work in the long term? Don't know. Let's find out. That's why they're doing it. It's also psychological. People say, well, will it make you less motivated? Will people be able to sit around and do nothing and just get given money? Maybe. Don't know. Most people actually have a desire to do something that they want to do in life. As silly as it sounds, a lot of people want to actually do something with their life. A lot of people do want to. They have a passion, they have an interest, they have a desire. What's holding people back from doing this is the social safety net just isn't there. A lot of people want to either create some art, or they want to go on a journey, they want to do something productive. And people hear me say this and they're like, oh, well, they have to create something useful. They have to. What they have to create is something that people like, people want. They have to fill a need. Not everyone wants to work in a factory. I'm sure that some people will want to do that, and that's absolutely fine. That's entirely their choice. If you want to do that, great. Live your best life, make yourself happy. I know a lot of people who are very content to go to a monotonous 9-to-5 factory job, move some bits around all day, come home, and then like, yeah, sweet, I'm physically fitter because I've got a physical job. It's not too mentally demanding. I've now got free time to do myself. That's absolutely fine. If you want to do that, you want to do that. I create content for a living. I play video games, make videos on them, analyze them, do content like this. I'm sure that if you were to look at my, contribution to society on a purely kind of, fundamental level, it's probably not that important. But people find entertainment in this, and I think that art is very important. Art is remarkably. People love distracting themselves with art. People love having fun things to watch and do. I mean, when the pandemic hit, everyone was inside watching videos, playing video games. There's a lot of value into a culture that creates art. So will universal basic income allow people to have that social safety net while creating something that would make the society, beautiful and great outside of just purely productivity? Yeah, probably. Probably. How many people would become content creators if there was universal basic income? I mean, that's another interesting way of looking at it, but the content creation sphere is, again, unfortunately, very, very skewed. The top, 1% of content creators get something like 70% of the views. And I'm saying that as someone who is likely in the top 1% of them, simply because there's 2.2 thousand people hanging out watching old school RuneScape talking about the validity of universal basic income to create a society that would allow the society to create art. And it's what's really weird about this is when we look at great societies, we see incredible works of art, works of philosophy, works of culture. And when you offer people the ability to now effectively follow their passions to create that, everyone goes, no, that's bad. Do you want a culture, a society that is artistically beautiful and relevant and has both the philosophy, the psychology, and the physical fitness to be able to go and explore those? I mean, was it the Romans or the Greeks that said that a philosopher should be a warrior and a warrior should be a philosopher? Because otherwise you will have your thinking done by cowards and your fighting done by idiots. It's very, very beneficial to a society as a whole to have at least a basic grasp of all of these concepts when attempting to do something. Someone said Greek and someone else said, I think that was The Simpsons. Well, I mean, if it is The Simpsons, fair play, because The Simpsons did do everything first. You can tell the smart water's cricking in. The smart water here, this is the Greek philosophy bit. But don't worry, I'm not going to change my Twitter handle, my Twitter photo profile picture to an old stone statue. I don't think I'm quite along that level yet. Don't worry, we're okay. I'm still grounded enough. I love the fact that as soon as you see someone with a stone statue face as a Twitter profile, you immediately know the exact kind of profile you're in for. It's a great filter. It really is. That was it. Thank you. The society that separates its scholars from its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. That is a beautiful sentence. How does this relate to universal basic income? Well, universal basic income would allow people the kind of social safety net, if you will, to follow a passion. What would you rather have? 100 people doing something that is productive, but they all hate it, meaning the actual amount of product created will be vastly lower than it should be because the people doing the creation don't want to do it and aren't passionate about it? Or would you rather have those 100 people find what they're actually passionate about doing and allow them to do that, which means they will effectively produce far, far more? Society doesn't run on art. That's absolutely true. Society does not run on art at all. But if a society cannot build itself to a sustainable position where art can be explored and created, what is the point? If you are simply trying to sustain yourself as a long-term society for the sake of continued sustenance, that is survival but not thriving. There is a very big difference between surviving and living. If a society wants to simply survive, okay, sometimes you're in those moments. Sometimes you've just got to do that. This is getting way too high energy for me. I need some dumb water. Why am I over here in Camelot? Oh, Catherby. Right, got Luna Catherby. I see. Cool. Darcy, I'm following you. Yeah, building itself to a sustainable position means productivity. It does. But then there are artistic victories in civilization, the game. It's very interesting to talk about this because when you talk about the idea of a society that is purely run on the ability to sustain itself, to grow, but not to explore what its values are, you're effectively getting to the Borg from Star Trek. Yeah, they will outlast everything. When you talk about the idea of a society, you're a little too wise for someone less than a century old. I've done that Nicolas Cage thing, the Keanu Reeves thing of just being a lot older than I look, which I'm hoping for. I did see the bit of Nicolas Cage when he was in the gaming thing, and he's like, "Thank you for inviting me to your cool club." I'm like, Nicholas, have you played a video game? I mean, I'd hope you have. I'd really hope you have. But you're not giving me too much hope. Yes, the Borg could outlast everything. They very much could. I think it would put people in that society into a position where, because I think what it is people are angry that there are other people being effectively given money for doing nothing. That's what they very much hate. People hate the idea that they work really hard and they get a small amount of cash, and then they see other people doing nothing and get given more. That's what people hate, and it feels unfair. And it absolutely feels unfair. But the problem we're going to come to here is enacting change, especially on a nationwide or a society-wide scale, will at some point involve someone from the past having to face the idea that someone from the future is living a better life than they did. And that's very, very difficult to come to terms with. That's why when people say, hey, we should forgive all student loans, and other people come back with the idea of, well, I paid mine off, you should pay yours off. Okay, interesting. While that's got more complexity to it than we have time to dive into, the problem that we're looking at is, do older people want younger people to suffer simply because they suffered? Is that a plague within society? And it's really weird because I've always thought that one of the jobs or one of the kind of aspirations, if you will, of a society is to provide a better life for its children than its parents had. It's very, very interesting. It's like the idea of I suffered so you should suffer too. It's difficult to accept that is people's position, and yet when you are put into that position, it's actually very easy to fall into that mindset. I had to endure this, therefore you should as well. And if you don't endure this, then I feel hard done by. That's the problem. That is very, very problem. So if universal basic income is approved, many people will be annoyed that they had to work and yet other people are just being given money. I had to work in a warehouse for a long time, and while I am definitely not I'm not going to start playing the suffering Olympics here, because one, it's a game no one should play, and two, I'm not going to win that because I'm sure people have had it way worse than me in life. But would I be happy that someone is able to do the same job that I did but get paid more? Yeah, that'd be great. If someone could come to me and be like, hey, I'm doing the same job you do, but I'm getting paid double, I'd be like, bang on, mate, well done. Good. Your suffering doesn't vindicate my past suffering. That wouldn't work. That's not how it's going to work. I don't need someone else to go through bad times to justify me going through them. No one should need that. It is vicious that so many people dislike other people having an easier life than them. And I think it's jealousy. I think it's envy. I think it's jealousy. Someone's like, yes, the problem with universal basic income is where does the money come from? Okay, where does it go to? That's another part of that. Where does it go to? Because if you were to effectively pay someone for doing nothing, and then they go out and spend money in the local economy, it goes back into the local area. Where does it come from? Same place almost anything comes from. Ultimately, it starts the cycle of, underpaid human labor, and then gets bought by someone in a richer country. I'm nowhere near smart enough. I'm pretty sure that the economy knowledge is like down here in the bottle of smart water. So let's drink through some more and see where we get to. Yeah, jealousy. Jealousy very much. It's very much a case of jealousy, envy, and I suffered so you should suffer too, which is a horrific plague on society, unfortunately. Okay, that sip of smart water, I'm pretty sure, was entirely about medieval battle tactics. So I want to talk about the slits in the windows in castles. That was where archers could fire out of, but it was very hard for them to fire into. In fact, if you've ever been to a medieval English castle, one thing you'll understand, and this is really interesting, trebuchets or catapults? Well, a catapult if I'm not a man of culture. A trebuchet if I want to launch a, 30-kilogram projectile over 300 meters? Without a doubt. Trebuchets all the way, my friend. Let's not get caught up in the terrible catapult choices. 90 kilograms, that's the one we need. Here's an interesting fact. Have you ever been to a medieval castle or any kind of medieval structure and the steps in the stones are not the same level? Yeah, there'll be like some steps that are a bit lower, some steps a bit higher, and people have told you, oh, medieval people didn't have the technology to make flat steps. Yes, they did, without a doubt, because that technology is literally a stick with a mark on it. I'm pretty sure they had that. What they did realize, however, was that if they made the steps uneven in a specific way, the people that lived in the castle would become used to that and not fall over, and if the castle got invaded, the people trying to climb the steps who expected them to be even and then they weren't would always trip over. And it's an easier way to defend the castle. It's also why spiral staircases always go in one direction, because the majority of people were right-handed, and if you are standing at the top of a spiral staircase, fighting down, as in defending it, it's easy to use your right hand and swing a sword in a huge arc all the way down. It's very difficult if you're going up a spiral staircase and right-handed to fight when the center of the spiral block, effectively, is by your right hand. You don't have anywhere near as much reach. You need to change to your left hand and swing around, which most people had a shield in. It makes it much, much easier to defend a castle if the spiral staircase go in a way that favors a right-handed defender from the top. What is next in this smart water? Holy shit, man, I'm so clever. Oh. Scoobert's middle name is Scoobert Doo, and the actual name of Shaggy is, I think it's Norville? There we go. That was about esoteric random cartoon knowledge.